The hidden empire controlling money long after nations collapse. Imagine this: empires crumble, currencies burn, and governments vanish into dust, yet the same invisible power keeps collecting payments, dictating prices, and shaping who rebuilds the next world. Every time a nation falls, its money should die with it. But it doesn't. The financial empire that controls money doesn't belong to any country, and it survives every collapse. Who runs this hidden empire? How does it persist when kings, presidents, and entire economies vanish? Let us uncover the story of the financial system that refuses to die, the empire behind every empire. Underscore the origins of the invisible empire. To understand the modern system, we must go back, not decades, but centuries. In the late 1600s, after wars drained the treasuries of Europe, governments faced an impossible problem. They needed money, but had no gold left. Enter a new kind of power: private banking. In 1694, the Bank of England was born. On paper, it was a tool to help the crown fund wars. In reality, it marked the first time a private institution created money for a nation, lending it at interest. It was a quiet revolution. Money was no longer wealth. It became debt. And once that shift happened, governments were no longer the masters of their currencies. They were the clients. This model spread like wildfire across Europe. France tried it. The Netherlands perfected it. Eventually, it would cross the ocean and land in the hands of a new republic, the United States. Underscore the rise of the debt machine. Fast forward to the early 20th century. The world was industrializing, populations were exploding, and empires were going broke trying to maintain control. In 1913, under cover of night, quite literally during a secret meeting on Jekyll Island, a group of bankers and politicians designed the next phase of financial control: the Federal Reserve System. It was sold as a stabilizer, a way to prevent panics. But at its core, it centralized the power to create and control money into the hands of those same private banking interests that had ruled Europe for centuries. The Federal Reserve wasn't federal, and it held no reserves. It was, and still is, a network of privately controlled institutions with the legal right to issue U.S. currency. From that moment, America, and by extension, the world, entered a new era. Every dollar in existence was created from debt, and debt meant control. The breaking point of nations. Then came the wars: World War I, World War II, both financed by the same debt-driven systems that profited from the chaos they funded. After the Second World War, nations lay in ruins. The United States, rich and intact, offered a solution: the Bretton Woods Agreement. Under this deal, all global currencies would be tied to the US dollar, and the dollar itself would be backed by gold. But there was a twist. The US didn't have enough gold to back the world's demand for dollars. So it printed more. By the 1960s, Foreign governments, especially France, began demanding their gold back. When Nixon realized the US couldn't pay, he did the unthinkable. In 1971, he closed the gold window. From that day forward, money became pure fiction, backed not by gold, but by trust, and by the enforcement power of global finance. Yet, even as the dollar lost its anchor, the empire behind it only grew stronger. The fallout. Money without a nation. Once money lost its gold link, something remarkable and terrifying happened. Debt exploded, inflation surged, and countries found themselves trapped in a new web of dependency. Institutions like the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank emerged, offering help to struggling nations. But that help came at a price: austerity, privatization, and total economic surveillance. Entire regions, from Latin America to Africa, became laboratories for what some call financial colonialism. The power wasn't in armies anymore, it was in loans. And here's the paradox. Even when nations defaulted or collapsed, the creditors didn't lose. The debt simply shifted, restructured, repackaged, and sold again. The system learned to feed on failure. Every collapse became a profit opportunity. The failed fixes over time, there were attempts to break free. Some countries nationalized banks, others created parallel currencies, but each time they were quietly pulled back into the system through sanctions, market manipulation, or regime change. In the early 2000s, cryptocurrencies appeared, a digital rebellion against central control. But as adoption grew, so did the crackdown. Governments began launching central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, promising safety and convenience, but ensuring total control over every transaction. What started as freedom through code became surveillance through finance. And just like before, every innovation in money ended up reinforcing the same empire that's controlled it for centuries. The modern parallel today, global debt exceeds $315 trillion, more than 3 times the value of the entire world's annual output. Think about that. We owe more money than exists. And yet, every major economy keeps borrowing because the system demands it. Central banks create new money through quantitative easing. Governments spend it. Corporations inflate stock markets. And ordinary people are left chasing numbers on screens that represent promises, not value. When nations default, the hidden empire doesn't fall. It adapts, it shifts capital, changes laws, rebrands itself just like it did after every empire before. The British, the Roman, the Ottoman, the American. The names change. The debt remains. The pattern repeats. If you look at history, you'll see the same cycle repeating. 1. A new currency emerges. 2. Debt expands faster than wealth. 3. Inflation erodes trust. 4. Collapse resets the system, and each time the control mechanism grows more invisible, from gold coins to paper, to digital codes to data itself. The next empire may not be built on land or armies, but on algorithms that decide who can buy, sell, or even exist in the financial world. It's not a future threat. It's already here. 3 takeaways and a warning. First takeaway: money is not value, it's control. Whoever issues it controls nations, and whoever controls debt controls destiny. Second takeaway: collapse doesn't destroy the financial empire, it renews it.